good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's August 1st, 2017. It's about 6:04 here at City Hall, 116th West Bridge Street, Granbury, Texas. The Granbury City Council regular meeting is now called to order. I'd like to note that one council member, Mr. Couch, is not with us yet, but he is en route, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to call upon Marcy Martinez with Cornerstone Church to lead us in our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge led by Councilman Tony Allen. All rise, please.
Thank you so much for having me this evening. If you'll join me in prayer. Father God, we just come to you and I just acknowledge you and just thank you for this opportunity to acknowledge you. And I thank you for this great city and this great county, Father. And just ask, Father, that you would just have your hand over us, that you would continue to protect us, Lord, and that you would lead us in a direction that would be pleasing to you. And Father, for all of the members that are here who serve at our liberty, the citizens' liberty, Father, we just ask your special blessing upon them. We ask that you would guide and direct their thoughts, Father, and that you would give them the vision that would be pleasing to you, and that you would have favor upon this city, that you would bless the families who come within it, Father, and that you would help us to continue to acknowledge you in our daily lives. Father, we thank you for the men and women who serve us and who put their lives on the line every day for us, and we ask that you would protect them as well and take care of their families. And lastly, Father God, we thank you for the children who exist in this county, and we just ask that you would be with them. Father, that you would guide us as adults to give them opportunities, that you would grant favor upon their lives, and that, Father, they would grow into great men and women who serve you and who serve others and who make America strong. We love you and we thank you for your many blessings. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. You'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
At this time, I'd like to go ahead and call upon Chris Coppin and probably brag on one of the staff members on a improvement to our technology we got here today.
You bet. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to take a minute and ask Tony Tull to step up to the mic and kind of dive into some of the few improvements we've done to our video in here. And I'd like to say that it was paid for with the TV tape funds, which this is a specified area of expenditure for those funds. So go ahead and tell us a little about what you've done to get us such a good, clear new picture.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council. Thank you, City Manager. What we have done, and you probably heard some of the feedback at the very beginning, we have a couple of things that we're still working on to tweak on the audio. We have upgraded all of the video now so that everything is an HD signal to all of the screens that you have here. So instead of losing a quarter on each side as before, you now have a full screen. You're going to have a much clearer picture at the dais where your monitors are at. You're going to be able to see your maps and your plats a whole lot better. The video that you get on there is going to be full HD now. The audio has been upgraded from scratch. Everything that had originally been in the building 15 years ago has been retired. All new equipment has been brought in. It's all digital signal. It's going to significantly enhance the signal that goes across on the live stream now. You're going to see a significant difference in the sound. We've also made some changes in the pre-council. We have a state-of-the-art laser digital projector in the ceiling with a sound system built into it. So there's some significant changes, and it's just bringing us into the current technology from what we had when we first built the building 15 years ago. So it's going to make some nice changes for everybody as far as what they'll be able to do in here. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Can I have one question? Hey, Tony.
We have a question.
Are we going to have a laser pointer that's available to council and the audience or to the podiums?
Yes, sir. We're looking at a different, it's not actually a laser. It's a different laser specifically made for TV screens. That's one of the issues you have with a laser pointer on this screen is it's glass and it's a TV screen. So I have a pointer that's on order specifically for TV screens, which actually is quite large and quite bright, so you can actually see it from out here when you shine it on the screen.
All right, great, thanks.
And just to be clear, Tony, the monitors are not new, it's just the wiring tool.
That is correct. Everything, that, all the infrastructure was here for us to go to HD. We were just getting the back end in to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. At this time, at in the first meeting of the month, we have our citizens' participation, where the City Council provides an opportunity for the citizens to present concerns or address issues that are not matters of consideration listed on the posted meeting agenda. Now, during this participation period, at one City Council meeting per month, subject to the following rules, a person wishing to address the City Council must first register with the City Secretary and provide the following information: their name, address, daytime telephone number, and the subject matter to be presented. Only one person will approach the microphone at one time. The speaker must address their comments to the presiding officer rather than individual City Council people, and the speakers may file copies of their remarks supporting information with the City Secretary, who will make the information available to the City Council and the City Manager if requested. The Council will be allowed to receive input or information for a future agenda item, but they will not be allowed to enter into any discussion. A maximum of 30 minutes for citizen participation during this designated council meeting. And our first speaker tonight is Lita Andrews.
I think they thought I was going to play a basketball game tonight when I walked in. But I'm excited to be here, members of the council and the mayor and the city manager. I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you. I come tonight with a heavy heart regarding the narrow streets and wider sidewalks. I drove a school bus for 52 years, and with school beginning August the 16th, I am hurting for our drivers as they need to cross the square on their routes. My concerns, along with many others, local people, for the motorists and the pedestrians, first but not least, is the narrow drive around the square. Motorists have to focus so heavy on the oncoming traffic, they cannot see the pedestrians walking between cars, trying to cross the street or get into their personal cars. Due to narrow driving lanes around the square, it is almost impossible to turn right at square corners on the square without getting in the oncoming traffic lanes or hitting the sidewalk or people that are standing as pedestrians on the sidewalk. I have a solution for this problem, council members. One-lane traffic around the square going counterclockwise. Did you hear me? Thank you. I truly hurt for the businesses on the square because of the construction. I firmly believe if you leave the square narrow lanes as they are today, the local people will avoid the square in the future, and so will the tourist. The square should be the hub of the county. The square should be the hub of the county. Members of the council, what is going to happen? How are you going to fix it? You are the ones that cause these problems, and we're going to have to live with it unless you come up with a solution. Now you have it to wear, and I don't know how you're going to wear, but I have faith in you, and I believe I can trust you in fixing the square around Granbury, Texas. I love Granbury. There's not anything that pleased me any more than to get on a yellow school bus with Granbury written on the side of it. And I could cry now to hear. I just came home from Corpus, and someone said, "What did you do with your square?" Folks, please consider what is best for dear old Granbury, good old Granbury, and the locals of Granbury, Texas. Think about it. Think about it. I know you will, and I know you'll fix it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker is John Luton.
How do you follow that?
You don't.
Next.
I want to complain about the narrow streets as well. They're on our corner at the bank. The traffic is kicked over so tight to our side that they've actually bent our awning post. That wasn't hit before. It didn't just happen. It happened because you've moved the traffic all the way over to our side. I want to thank Councilman Couch for reaching out, coming to town and meeting and letting me show him what my concerns are, and he called me again today and wanted to talk about it. I appreciate that. But it's a bad situation, and somebody's going to get run over on one of these corners. And that's, like Lita said, that's going to be on y'all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Ken Hackett.
I too wanted to speak to the traffic issues, maybe in a little different form and discussion. Of course, I supported the changes to the square. I felt like it's time to make the pedestrians a little more important than the cars. No offense to Ms. Andrews, but also the school buses. They do cut through the square pretty much, because at a prayer session every Wednesday morning we got to hear them roaring through the square. But irregardless of that issue, I too clipped a corner the other day about 3 weeks ago when I was rounding the new curb. But it wasn't the curb's fault, it was mine. I just cut the corner. And I haven't hit one since. And what I would ask everybody who maybe hasn't been to some squares with the narrower streets, give it a little time, and people will change their routes, they will change their turning habits, they will slow down, which is what we've been needing, and hopefully some of these trucks will get off the square that have no business being there. So I said, just give it some time. If we can't live with it afterwards, concrete can always be changed a little, and let's worry about it once we see the end product and the end behaviors of our residents and our tourists. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our citizen participation. We do have one other person that signed up similar to that, but like I said, if it's pertaining to a agenda item, and that one was pertaining somewhat to agenda item, so I will allow that person to go ahead and speak when that agenda item comes up. At this time, we're going to go into the consent agenda, council. The first one being consider approving the city council meeting minutes of July the 18th, 2017. Second one being consider adopting ordinance 17-43, amending the master fee schedule codified as Article 1.50 of the Granbury Code of Ordinance. And number 3, consider approving a memorandum of understanding between CTMGT, which is Granbury LLC, known as the developer of Knox Ranch, and the city of Granbury. And number 4 is consider approving the proposal for legal services as interim city attorney as received by Wayne K. Olson of Taylor Olson, Akins, Srala Elam LLP. And number 5 is consider adopting ordinance 17-44, amending the general fund budget for the fiscal year 2016-2017. And as you read through that, council, most of these items are items that the council has requested either be brought up, changed, or added to, and Ava has done so. So with that said, I got, if anybody wants to make any changes or pull any of these consent agenda items off or make any corrections to them at this time.
Mayor,
Councilman Parsons.
in the minutes of the prior meeting, after we come back from executive session, I made a motion to approve 3% raise for city secretary. I would like for that minutes to include the phrase that is effective fiscal year 2017.
Effective 2017/2018, right? Don't note it. Noted, you're right. Sure.
I'm positive that was in the
That was-
original motion.
Yes.
Any more changes or removals at this time? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve with the changes.
We've got a motion to approve with the changes that have said. We got a second? I got a second by Councilman Mobley. Council, any more discussion on these consent agenda items? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The consent agenda is approved. Next, we're going to move into the deliberation agenda. Council, this first item is number 6, 7, 8, and 9, and I'm going to have, we're going to go ahead and have the staff read into all 4 of these. We'll talk about them, open the public hearing, but we will be voting on these individually. Scott, could you give us a staff report on that, please?
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager. These 4 applications, in essence, comprise an amendment, first an amendment to the comprehensive plan and the future land use map. Secondly, a rezoning request. Thirdly, an SUP application. And lastly, a replat application. So what we have is an application. Take a step back. The property is in the far reaches of the city of Granbury limits, heading toward the city of Crescent. It's at the furthest extent of our city boundary line, right before you get to our ETJ strike abutting Crescent's ETJ. It's at the intersection of Industrial Avenue and Acton Circle. It's located as it's located within a industrial park, in essence, that was platted prior to us annexing it, and currently exists as 3 lots of record. You can see it's currently undeveloped, zoned interim holding, but again, it's integrated into an existing industrial park. You can see the adjoining zoning surrounding the property. To the west, that planned development is a planned development industrial. You can see south of that, fronting Highway 377, is an industrial zone. And to the east of that is located a heavy commercial zone. The uses contained within this industrial park are largely heavy commercial and industrial. You can see through the aerial there. So what's being proposed by the applicant, Eagle Stone, is a stone yard with outside storage. They're wishing to aggregate the 3 lots into 1 lot of record. They've provided a site plan along with elevations to support their SUP application. A little backstory on this. This property was annexed in 2005. As a part of the annexation process in 2005, the city entered into a service plan agreement with property owners. In essence, that's a 2-party agreement where the city stipulates in that agreement what services will be provided. So we're going to touch on this a little bit, specifically as it relates to the plat application and the provision of water and sewer. But contained within that service plan was a declaration by the city in 2005 that this whole territory, inclusive of this industrial park, is largely rural in nature. And keep in mind, this property also includes the undeveloped property that's still in survey to the south. It's rural in nature and can be sustained by existing well and septic, water wells and septic systems. So you have 3 lots of record contained within a platted industrial park that was included with other areas in the annexation territory in a 2-party agreement between the city of Granbury and the property owners. That's a covenant running with the land, saying that the city's not going to change the land use. These properties can be sustained by well and septic systems. Okay. So first and foremost is the application to amend the comprehensive plan, the future land use map contained within the comprehensive plan. Our comprehensive plan suggests this area to be commercial. If I can get to that. So that, in essence, is where the star is, or just south of the star. The intersection of Acton Circle, you can see it's red. And the legend just to the lower right is commercial. It's not earmarked as industrial, even though it's a platted industrial park. Back to the zoning map, we have industrial uses and industrial established zoning districts adjacent to this. So part of the deliberations by your Planning and Zoning Commission were considering compatibility adjacency and the request of the applicant to have similar land use within the area. So this is the itemized list that's contained within your comprehensive plan. It's also included in your agenda packet about the litmus test on what's being looked at when somebody makes an application to you to change that comprehensive plan. Adjacency is a key factor of that. You have in your agenda packet as well a response from the property owner that is being submitted to you addressing those questions. This is the summary that staff pieced together from the applicant's application to try to address those litmus questions. Very briefly, and then onto the zoning application. So brick and stone cells, outside storage is what the applicant's asking. You can see in our land use matrix it requires industrial zoning with an SUP. Again, the base district rezoning to industrial with an SUP requirement is being requested by the applicant. Your P&Z report on the comp plan, the rezoning is as such. The P&Z unanimously voted to amend the future land use map contained within the 2016 comprehensive plan to allow for the industrial development instead of commercial that's stipulated on the comprehensive plan. And then secondly, the P&Z also voted unanimously to direct the city manager and staff to change the area on the future land use map contained within the 2016 comprehensive plan from commercial to industrial on the aforementioned property. And then secondly, on this second application for the rezoning request, the P&Z unanimously recommended approval of the rezoning request to industrial as presented by the applicant. So once the P&Z approved the zoning request, they went on to the specific use application. The SUP has a site plan element to it. You can see the layout. Again, this is going from 3 lots of record. We'll see a replat shortly. They're going from 3 lots to 1 lot. You can see the vacation and abandonment of the 2 lot lines to the center of the property, the location of the office buildings, the canopies, and the open storage bins for the stone placement on pallets. This is what they provided us insofar as building elevations. You can see it's a real nice looking building, full stone masonry all the way across. Certainly enhances some of the businesses that are out there. It's a step up, a graduation up from some of the grandfathered uses that we took in 2005. The SUP is recommended unanimously for approval by your Planning and Zoning Commission with outside storage as presented by the applicant. Now onto the plat application. This is the replat application proposing to replat lots M, L, and K into M1, comprising a little under 6 acres. Again, the vacation and abandonment of the interior lot lines and those easements. You can see the fire lane being dedicated per the plat application. Now, we did have a laundry list of variances to our subdivision ordinance, and this is not unusual or atypical on some of these grandfathered subdivisions that were brought in on the annexation process. I'm going to get to the variance listing here. So we have a variance to 3.1E and 410 to not upgrade Industrial Avenue and Acton Circle to urban standards. That's the curb and gutter standard. A variance to 3684 to not install sidewalks. variance to 3945 and 410A to not install sewer lines on Industrial Avenue and Acton Circle and to allow for the use of an OSSF system or a septic system in lieu of central sewer. The nearest central sewer is roughly where Toyota is, just where the old Montessori school, Toyota, there's a stub there. The intersection with 167 South is a 1 mile demarcation line to the furthest extent of this property, so it's well over a mile away. A variance was requested to 39 and 46 and 410A to not upgrade the water lines on Industrial Avenue and Acton Circle. This property is being provided water by AquaSource or Aqua Water, and they have written a letter to the DRC and P&Z and City Council stating that they can provide water service in accordance with TCEQ standards. Now, they do have a 2-inch line there, and as part of the subdivision or process and variance process, they will not be able to meet, obviously, our 8-inch minimum water lines and our fire hydrant coverage halo standards. That was discussed at DRC, and we coordinated with our inspections department. We got this from our inspections manager, Mr. Cook, acknowledging that the central mains can't support a fire hydrant system, but it was conveyed to the property owner and the developer that they'll need to still meet the building code standards, and you can see by Jim's response that he's aware of that. An approved fire protection alternative will need to be provided when plans are submitted. Construction, we can discuss the appropriate methods meeting code. Let's see. A variance to 46 to not install fire hydrants. Again, that's tied to the preceding variance and the water line. The 2-inch lines are in place. Your planning and zoning. You do have a letter from your city engineer recommending approval of the variances that was supplied to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission acknowledged that, recommended approval of the variances first, and then the replat application as submitted by the applicant. I think that's all I have, Mayor. Let's see here. Yes, that's all I have. So, in essence, your Planning and Zoning Commission recommends unanimously approval of all 4 applications as submitted. Be happy to entertain any questions should the council have any.
Thank you, Scott. And there you have, we have in order, a comp plan, a zoning, an SUP, and a replat. At this time, I'm going to open it up to the public. Does anybody in the public wish to speak on either or on any of these items here, 6, 7, 8, or 9? Now I'll close this public hearing. Council, do you have any questions or concerns for Scott on any of these items? Mr. Allen.
Mayor, I have one for you, I guess, because we don't have an attorney up front, or Chris. I do business with these people. I buy a lot of rock and mortar and stuff from them for our business, and I've seen these plans through the city, and I listened to what Scott just said because it's already in our booklet. It wasn't nothing I was trying to learn and vote. If the council feel better if I didn't vote on this, I'll be happy to walk.
I think you're okay.
Think I'm okay?
Yep. You are.
You don't own part of this business?
No, I want money.
You're all right.
No.
I don't think.
I tell you this, I will say this, you know, the other rock company come into town and built something similar to this. It's nice, it's clean, and this is going to be the same way.
Thank you, Mr. Allen.
All right.
Mayor,
Councilman Parson?
the other rock place that's industrial 37.
We were actually working on the older 2008 comprehensive plan, and if memory serves me correctly, well, I don't want to speak out of turn without referring back to the minutes.
Okay.
So,
On the 2 streets, Industrial and Acton Circle, who owns those and who's responsible for maintenance on those?
those are, from what I can see, those are public streets. So when we annex them, we take over maintenance responsibility for them.
Okay. So we have big, heavy rock trucks on that, which is different than the other 2. rock companies that we've approved before, as they were.
So the one that I'm aware of fronts 377, but also has side access on the Business Boulevard,
Business Boulevard, okay.
and that is a city street as well. And that remained a bar ditch county-type facility as well.
That's all, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor, I do have a question. to
Councilman
follow
Allen?
up. Did you say they would belong to the city when this is done?
So as part of the service plan in 2005, when we annexed it, any public road that was duly dedicated as a part of the plat becomes a maintenance responsibility of the city.
All right. Do you think we got to rebuild?
That's really up to the Public Works Department, CIP process. So typically when we bring public roads in, they get rolled into the assessment inventory, just like all the other roads in the city.
I know in Pecan, which is a little different, but we have to pay a fee whenever we haul dirt in or concrete for the weight of the vehicle. I don't know how we'd have a meter out there, but I think this is just my opinion, I think before the city takes over the street, they should be checked and made sure they're up to par, or they will bring them up to standard that we need before we would annex this thing in.
It's already annexed.
Okay, but before we approve what they're asking.
Well, I'm not sure what you're asking for.
Okay,
Sorry.
all right. What they're asking for tonight. We don't have to prove this until the streets are checked out. Is that right or not?
I think there's a 30-day window in which you have to respond. Scott, talk.
I think I can answer that, Councilman Allen. So when we annexed this in 2005, your city staff writes a service plan, and they go on to existing and proposed roads that will be brought into the city. And that's, when I write a service plan, I cast that out to the then Public Works Department. And as a part of the annex plan, before the city adopts the ordinance annexing the property, the city will go out there and make a windshield assessment of the roads and report back to the city council if there's going to be any cost burden associated with bringing the property in. And that's inclusive of the public roads that are on the docket to be brought in. That report was not made in 2005. So I think it's the standard language in our service plan that says the roads to be brought into the city do not require any immediate monetary burden on the city. So in 2005, it was a choice of the information, based on the information your staff brought to you in 2005 and the council approval of the adoption ordinance, that there was no issue with the roads. They were county roads. They didn't meet city standard, but your service plan recognized that and say that there was no immediate monetary issue. Obviously, the roads are already, 12 years old from when we annexed it. So we've had 12 years of life on that road when we annexed it. So I think that speaks for the plan.
Okay.
Is there commercial traffic on Acton Circle already?
Yes.
Council, any more questions, concerns? I will pause a little bit. I failed to recognize that Councilman Couch did join us at 6:14, just for the record. Council, no more questions or concerns on this one. As you know, going into item number 6, we have two options: to amend the future or the comp plan, or to not deny the applicant's request for the future land use. I would entertain a motion that we would approve the comprehensive plan as presented by the applicant.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Couch.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Mobley. Council, any more discussion on that one? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. That comp plan is approved. Our next item is item number 7, which was the rezoning. Council, you have any discussion on that item? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion here. So we have a motion to approve the rezoning request as presented by the applicant by Councilman Mobley.
Second.
Have a second by Councilman Couch. Council, any more discussion on this item? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. That one is approved. Item number 8 is the approval of the SUP. Council, is there any more discussion on that item? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the said SUP.
So moved.
That has conditions on it. So we have a, is that Councilman Parsons? We have a motion by Councilman Parsons to approve the said SUP as requested. We have a second?
Second?
I have a second by Councilperson Myers. Council, any more discussion on that item? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. That is approved. Our next item is the consider the replat with the said variances. Council, is there any more discussion on that item? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the replat with the said variances.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Mobley.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Couch. Council, any more discussion on item number 9? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. That replat is approved. That sums up those 4 items. It is approved. We're going to move to item number 10. Here again, item number 10 and 11 are combined. Item number 10 being to adopt ordinance 1748. And item number 11 is the approval of the request to replat. Scott, if you could give us some more information on that, please.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. What we have is a application to, we're issuing a specific use permit in a light commercial zone to allow for produce sales. And when you look at the definition of produce sales, more specifically, the applicant's wanting a flower shop. But when you look at our definition of produce sales, it includes the sale of flowers. So that's a little nuance in our definition of the zoning ordinance. That's why we highlighted the word flowers and the use, particular use as a flower shop. You can see in our land use matrix that it requires an SUP in light commercial. The property is currently zoned light commercial. You can see the property bounded in a darker red border at the intersection of Cleburne and Pearl to the northeast. This is the aerial for the particular site. And we do have a site plan as well. This property is also located in the city's historic preservation overlay. And these elevations were submitted and approved by the historic district for the new construction. Very good looking building. Again, this will be located to the eastern side of the property. And this will be 2 lots of record as shown on the replat. This is the replat application. You can see the dedicated fire lane that tracks the curvature of the maneuvering area within the developed property on Lot 2R and just to the west on the vacant lot, Lot 1 of the Yule Edition. Again, you can see that this is going from roughly 3 lots to 2 lots. This is a replat. We're vacating 2 interior lot lines and creating 1 down the middle. Okay, we have variances associated with this as well. We have a variance to 3.9 and 4.5 not to upsize the existing sewer line on Pearl Street. What's in place currently is a 6-inch clay line. We have a variance to 3.9 and 4.6 to not upsize the water lines on Pearl Street. We go over to our water maps here. You can see on the brown, the existing clay 6-inch clay line is the short side service line. And then we have an 8-inch line that's alongside service line to the south of Pearl Street and a 4-inch line that's a short side connection on Pearl Street. And then we have an 8-inch line on Cleveland Street for the second lot or the westernmost lot. Again, your engineer with Trees and Nichols, Marty Smith, is requesting approval of the variances. It's important to note that we're decreasing density. We have 3 lots of record, 3 service units on each one. There's no impact. In fact, we're lessening the service demand on our infrastructure. That's an important factor when our engineer is reviewing these. So he's recommending no improvements to the substandard infrastructure because right now they have a right to have 3 connections, and they're proposing 2. Mayor, Council, your Planning and Zoning Commission is recommending approval of the SUP as submitted by the applicant and the replat application, along with the variances as submitted by the applicant as well. One other nuance that I want to point out, if you can see on Lot 2R just to the north, you can see that is very clear. This lot line abandoned and vacated per this plat. So if you see that parallel line that just goes to the north, that is part of an easement. That's part of the old town that was platted. We posed the question at DRC to the surveyor, Brooks Baker, who submitted this, as to who owns the easement. That was actually transferred by title in the late 90s. So there's no longer any public interest in that easement. This plat just vacates that easement line, even though the property owner of Lot 2R owns not just the lot, but the easement as well. So there's no public easement vacation nor abandonment here. There's just a private easement line that's being vacated as a part of this replat. She owns both the easement property and the lot itself. And we have the surveyor here from Brooks Baker if there's any questions regarding that. That wraps it up, Mayor. I'll be happy to entertain any questions. Again, your Planning and Zoning Commission recommend unanimously approval as submitted by the applicant.
Thank you, Scott. And once again, we've talked about the SUP and the replat together, and I'll now open the public hearing up for both of those items, item number 10 and item number 11. Does anybody in the public have anything they want to say about those items or speak on them? We have a speaker, okay?
Good evening, Mayor. I'm Julie Crofton, 622 East Bridge. My question concerning this SUP parking. Is it going to be a flower shop, or is it going to be a farmer's market as it reflected in the historical commission's passage of the SUP? And what are we going to do with parking? We already have an issue on Cleburne because we have a business on Cleburne that we have when we have any event or anything, even without an event. We have an issue with people turning because there's cars parked all the way up to Cleburne, and we have no parking on one side of it. So if we do that, I'm definitely for having a business there. Where is it going to be a farmer's market, as we have been, different people have said? Is it going to be a flower shop, which would be fabulous? If it's going to be a farmer's market, I'd like some specifics on that, because we already have an issue with access, and depending on what happens with the square, people who live downtown, who live in this area, we have an issue as it is with getting emergency vehicles down there. So what are we gonna do if we have more people? Where are they gonna park? How are we gonna get emergency vehicles down Cleburne? I want you to please look at that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Scott, I noticed you've got the parking up there now. It meets the parking standard, doesn't it?
Right, so the site plan, we'll check with our ordinance to make sure that there's parking to support the building footprint area. I know my staff will look at that. The caption for the SUP in and of itself is to allow produce sales inside,
Right.
specifically inside the building. So maybe we can get the applicant, business owner up here to maybe specify a little more as to whether or not.
Do we have the applicant or the business owner? Yeah. Okay.
And they can read into the record if there's any outside activity.
Okay.
It goes back to the
Go ahead
name.
and announce your name and
Barry Gilbert
There
with
you go.
ProCAD. We did the architectural drawings for Vicky. There is, to answer your question, is that there is no, there's nothing going to be on the other lot closest to Cleburne. There's nothing planned for that lot at this time. It's just going to be a vacant lot with that fireplace that's still standing from the house that was tore down. The flower shop is just a flower shop. It's kind of a misnomer in the zoning regulations that the category that they put it into happens to be, as Scott said, produce sales. We questioned this numerous times. We're not selling watermelons, cantaloupes. We're selling flowers, really nice flowers, and a gift shop is all that's really going to reside there. And we do have to meet the parking requirement for the size of building that we've got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got a question, Chris?
Public hearing's over.
Okay. Thank you, Barry. Anybody in the public wish to speak on this item? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Council?
Mayor,
Councilman Couch.
just for clarification purposes, if their intent was a farmer's market, that would have to come back in front of council, right?
So in looking at the definition, they are asking for an SUP for produce sales inside, which is inclusive of everything you see here. So they can sell inside vegetables, flowers, plants, herbs, everything that's on this list. And that's what this SUP covers. So if there's typically any spillage outside, daily outdoor display, or like we saw in the heavy commercial zone where they had the kiosks set outside last month, remember the 5 around the parking? They had to go through a zoning change and an SUP for that. So SUP and light commercial for produce sales inside, they're focusing on flowers and plants, but by right, they can sell jellies, jams, pickles, sausage, baked goods under this definition inside.
Inside.
Thank you.
I think
I had
ours-
a question for Scott. On
Councilman
the
Allen.
14 parking places, looks like a lot of parking compared to some of the businesses. But how did you determine that?
It's our parking matrix based on the square footage.
Square footage, okay.
Of the building footprint.
Okay. And was it more or exactly?
I don't know, as long as they meet the minimum, they can meet the minimum, or they can have, beyond the minimum, no more than 25% overage. So as long as they're within that continuum, they meet the ordinance requirement.
Scott, I noticed on the elevation that you show us, the only masonry is on those columns. Doesn't that code require 30%?
So as mentioned, they went through the Historic Commission, and our language in the zoning ordinance, if they're in the historic preservation overlay, then the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness by the Historic Commission, in essence, can grant a de facto masonry waiver, provided they approve these elevations. So, for example, if a structure wants to look Victorian to fit in with the surrounding adjacency, then the certificate of appropriateness by the Historic Commission allows that authority.
Was this hardy board?
I believe this is hardy board. Yes.
Okay.
So and we made it clear, we don't specify hardy board as a franchise material. We say cement fiber or
Yeah.
hardy plank type material. That way it gives them a little.
I don't mind advertising for them. I wish they'd give me a
Commercial.
So it'll probably have to meet the colors and everything too then, right?
That's correct.
Right. Council, any more questions for Scott or the applicant? If not, I'll entertain a motion. We'll go through the 10 and 11. We'll do number 10 first, and I'll entertain a motion there to approve the SUP for the produce sales inside flower shop as presented by the applicant.
So moved, Mayor.
I have a motion by Councilman Allen. I got a second by Councilman Parsons. Council, any more discussion on that item? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. That is approved. Item number 11. Item number 11, does anybody in the council have any more discussion on that item there? This one here is the approval for the replat with the said variances. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the said replat with the said variances.
Go.
I got a motion by Councilman Parsons,
Second.
and I got a second by Councilman Allen. Council, any more discussion on this item? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Item number 11 is approved. Thank you. Item number 12 is a public hearing and consider adopting ordinance 1749. And I'm going to call on Scott to speak on that one a little bit too.
Thank you, Mayor. What we have is a request by the property owner of Print One to place a temporary portable building for sale along the street front. So what we have, and you may have driven by it, is a tornado shelter that's being displayed. From what I understand, they don't store them on site. They just display the one for advertising purposes, for installation at residences and other areas about the city. You can see there's a wrap around this that constitutes advertising. This is the site plan that shows the placement of it. It's highlighted in yellow. You can see it takes up one parking space. Again, there's a parking space where it's being placed. They have an overage of parking where they can actually lose one parking spot. So it does not place them into non-compliance on parking. You can see the areas is highlighted with star, zone heavy commercial, portable building sales with outside display require an SUP in heavy commercial. Typically in heavy commercial, our ordinance in heavy commercial allows outside display of merchandise restricted to cars, used cars, boats, etc. All the other storage in a heavy commercial zone beyond boats, trailers, cars that are allowed specifically in the land use matrix are restricted to the back of the building and in a storage compound. Here's again another shot of it. So you can see by the deliberation at P&Z, they voted 3-2 to approve this, 3 A's, 2 nays of the SUP with the following conditions, and I'll read them off real quickly. But some of the dialogue there at the Planning and Zoning Commission, at least from the dissenting voters, had concerns regarding that this would constitute something in effect of a temporary sign. We go through a lot of effort in order to have commercial signage to monument standards, and this wrap is something more temporary and is not as aesthetically pleasing. It does draw the eye, which is obviously the intent of it. And then the other issue that was brought up is storage in commercial areas being restricted to the back, not to the front. But they did win the day at Planning and Zoning Commission. They got 3 votes out of 5. That's coming to you with a majority recommending approval. The approvals of the vote were stipulated with the following conditions: that the outdoor storage is permitted in heavy commercial zones, however. That the applicant needs to go before the Board of Adjustment for approval for a variance to the sign ordinance because this constitutes commercial advertising. Giving them 60 days to get the authorization from the ZBA. If the ZBA does not grant authorization, any non-compliant building shelter on site will be in violation of the ordinance. So even though the council may grant approval, the council doesn't have the authority to grant commercial signage that doesn't meet our signage requirements. So they still need to go to the Board of Adjustment, and they have 60 days to do this. If the ZBA acts in the affirmative and you act in the affirmative on the SUP, everything just kind of goes down with the standard conditions that are mentioned here. The specific use permit shall automatically expire 1 year after city council approval. Only one storm shelter shall be displayed. The storm shelter shall be at least 10 foot from the property line. Again, we're looking at this as a commercial sign. Signs have to be 10 foot from the property line, hence the 10-foot setback. And storm shelters are the only type of portable buildings that this SUP permits to be sold under this SUP ordinance. Again, this storm shelter is classified as a portable building. See if I can get to the definition here. Oh, I don't know if I have it on the screen. So let me just read it. Portable building cells. An establishment that displays and sells structures capable of being carried and transported to another location. So that's the similarity between portable buildings and storm shelters that staff applied to the zoning ordinance, and P&Z agreed with that association. So again, a 3-2 vote by P&Z. These were the points of consideration. They're in your staff report, and these are the conditions that P&Z imposed on it. Ultimately, they got 3 votes, the majority of the votes, and they put a 1-year stipulation just to look, see how it performs, to make sure it doesn't get out of hand. Mayor, council, I'll be happy to entertain any questions should the council have any.
Thank you, Scott. So there you have it with several conditions there. At this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing, and we do have a speaker card for Annette and Larry Riggins, which are the owners. I don't know if they want to speak or just be available to answer questions, or you want to speak? Okay. All right. So they are out there to answer questions. Does anybody want to speak on this item in the public? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Council, do you have any discussion or any questions for the owners?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Mobley.
I guess my question is, why is this coming here now? That's been there for several months, is it not?
Code enforcement.
Good evening, I'm Annette Riggin. I represent in the dealer of Family Safe. Mayor, councilmen and women, Scott, thank you for having me here today to answer your questions. Why is it just coming? I had the unit at Arrow Feed, and sales were not what I wanted to, what were expected, and neither was the education of the unit to be able to sell them. So I moved them across the street to my own building. We own that building. Crown Quality Roofing owns the building, not Print One. And so I did this dealership and saw no problems. I moved in February. I understand there was a complaint that I did not have the code. There is no code for a storm shelter. No one else has done this. It's a 4x6 steel structure, like an ambulance. It protects a family for 20 minutes during a tornado. It is not bolted to the ground. It can be locked. The advertising is that to draw attention, but I did it very carefully. Otherwise, you wouldn't know what it was. It's a white structure, 4x6. If it did not say tornado shelter, then no one would know what this was. And so, yes, it's a form of advertising, but in my opinion, after much thought, I did it very well. It is almost 13 feet from the guidelines. It's not just 10. There will be no other structure. I think it's represented well. I have had a lot of interest, and it's a lot of people want to be educated on how to find safety during the weather in Granbury.
Well, I guess my question comes from, because I didn't file a complaint. I did, when I noticed it over there, I'd never seen it over at Arrow Feed, so you probably made the right move.
It was hidden.
Yeah. And so when I saw it, I was coming back from the Y or something and saw it, and I thought, well, this is unusual. And I actually called Chris and said, do we normally do this? And his answer was, well, this. And his answer was, well, no. And so, hey, I appreciate you coming forward. So somebody got our attention here.
There's a huge need for it.
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. My question was, why now? Because it's been out there 6 months.
It was in the front of the arrow feed, but no one noticed it. And so,
Or we'd have probably had this discussion back then, too.
yes, we would have. But I do very well in helping people with these storm shelters. They don't know what listing. If you Google storm shelters, they have no idea, besides the one that's in the front of the building at Home Depot.
Right.
And then Lowe's will be also adding one to the front of their building. And so to help the community, yes, I think it is necessary to have it there.
I don't think anybody's doubting the benefit. It's just the process. So, and that's all the questions I have. Like I said, it just aroused my curiosity when I saw it on the agenda this week.
I didn't know. When I moved it across the street to my own property, I had no idea there were so many rules. I've been a stay-at-home mom for 25 years. I wanted to show my son that, yes, I can do something, and it's something meaningful.
Yeah. Welcome to Granbury.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, I think. So many codes, so many permits. But I'm doing the best I can. Sign-wise, I had no idea that I would get in trouble for wrapping it. I was just educating people what that was. It's not a bathroom.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, ma'am, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Allen,
You're not backed up to the mobile. That's just a picture showing that they got a banner out there, right?
Yes, they put that banner up when I put the unit over there.
Okay. What would happen, because you're adding on to that building also, right?
Yes, we are.
What would happen, and that road goes all the way through to the back?
Yes, sir, it does.
What would happen if you moved that to the back? And that way people, when they come around the back, they exit out?
Well, Mr. Allen, I don't think I would have the exposure I'm needing to educate people of Granbury for where they can find shelter. If I moved it to the back, there's not as much traffic there, sir.
No, I mean, I seen it there. I thought it was pretty neat. I was kind of like, Mobley. I was like, I never seen one of those before in Granbury. But, my only concern is, and you made a remark there, Lowe's going to do it in Home Depot. I haven't seen it before us yet. Am I wrong on that? Or
they have outdoor.
They have asked for
They
it?
can do outdoor display.
But they haven't asked before us.
Whenever they built their building, I'm sure they got the outdoor permit.
They have a permit
Oh,
to
yeah,
do
yeah,
it
all
already.
of them do. HEB has the same. But it doesn't say, that kind of storage.
Well, I'm sure it has some kind of signage on it.
HEB says that it'll be produce and pottery, same as Kroger's when we did theirs. It
Yeah,
doesn't say anything about outbuildings.
Well, it's just outdoor merchandise.
It's outdoor merchandise, right?
So is that considered an outdoor merchandise?
Yes, sir.
That's what they're asking for, because there is no other outdoor merchandise in this lot.
So if we do this, and then Home Depot, they already got
They already have it, yeah.
those, they can put them out there too.
Well, they've got a location in their parking lot. They're limited to market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just can't go all the way out to the street and start putting stuff.
Home Depot and Lowe's are a little bit different animals. They're lumber sales, and that's a whole different, and they've provided us a site plan showing where their outside display areas are, and that's inclusive of portable buildings. So it's a very detailed bird's eye view of how they're laying things out from their garden center to where they're putting their lawnmowers, et cetera, et cetera. This is a lot simpler. This is just the property owner saying they want one shelter at a specific
No, I don't blame them.
location.
I mean, I think it's a good deal. I'm not against it. I just don't want to wait till the next person comes in and says, well, you approved it for this people to put this billboard out here, and that's what they're going to call it. And we will do the same. We'll build a box and put our name out there. That's all I'm saying. I think it's a great idea.
The reason I know about Lowe's, the one they're coming to, is because I was one of the people that were bidding for that job. And so I do know that who else got the job instead of myself for all of the Lowe's. And it's just a matter of time, but Home Depot's is right by their front door. They have a smaller unit that's 5 by 3, and they have advertising on that also.
I have a hard time getting a 5 by 3, ma'am.
Well, a lot of my customers got a little bit bigger one because in case they do grow as they get older. So they wanted a little bit bigger size than a 4x6. But mainly, it was all done in innocence. I have never had my own business before. And I just thought it was creative, to be honest with you. I thought it was really cute, the little family coming around the corner. The tornado on the side gets kids talking to their parents about safety. And I thought I did really well choosing it.
I think our city manager has a question.
Where do you transact your business? Somebody wants to buy one of these, where do they go? They
I
go
meet
inside,
them at the office. I
meet them at
my
Fast
husband's
Print?
office. We own that building.
and you meet them in there, and
And I talked to them about the
Okay.
unit and about the protection of the NASCAR 2x2 inside, what it's made out of, what all they need to pack in there. And I have my own office
oh,
on the
okay.
side there,
Okay.
and so does Crown Roofing.
And then they ship them.
They ship them
From
from
someplace.
Oklahoma,
And what is the name of your business?
Family Safe Storm Shelters.
Okay, thank you.
We have a website and a complete business.
Okay, thank you.
And this is going to be displayed in that parking spot so that we still have what the required parking space, right, Scott?
Even with the expansion, yes. We'll have more than enough. I think we have to have 21 spaces with our expansion.
Okay.
Mayor,
Councilperson Myers.
the first time I saw it, I actually pulled up to it and measured it. And I just wished I had a place to put one. So, thank you for,
It gives you great peace of mind.
we were here during the tornado, so I think that anyone that has, the space to put one would certainly, I would buy one tomorrow. I just don't.
Well, we do bolt togethers. We can put it in your pantry in a large bathroom. We do put them in the garage. There's just the one that we sell the best. And we could put this in the garage. And I get a lot of business. People wanting to be safe. Even a lot of people in trailers, they want to know if they put a slab down, can they put this on the slab? Absolutely, if it's certified permit slab that's in good quality condition. So I think it only helps people because we do not know. We all think that it's the underground ones or no other one, and that's just not the way of the future. It's easier to get in and out of one of these and to bring your pets or your wheelchair or whatever as you get older than to climb down into the ground with pets or a disabled person.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you. Council, any more questions, concerns on this item? Councilman Couch.
Scott, this is strictly falling under outdoor sales, or does the building part of it, is that what's qualifying this as an option?
When you look at the definition of portable buildings in our zoning ordinance, it dovetails in well with storm shelters. It can be relocated, it can be provided as shelter. So that's where these are falling under our zoning ordinance, and by the classification, that's where they fall in line, SUP with in heavy commercial zoning districts.
Okay, so I have a little concern about setting a precedent here, that we would see these around town, with maybe just a phone number, and when there's businesses investing in floor space, I'm asking myself, is that fair to them, to have a major investment in a building retail space, versus, some asphalt? It's great exposure. I think it's a well-needed product. But let me just give you an example. So let's say I wanted to sell saunas, and I open the door and I get in the sauna. Would that qualify for an outdoor display if I found a space that would be willing to lease me the ground?
So that would fall under outside merchandise display, and typically, the way our zoning ordinance is written, that any outside activity typically prompts an SUP consideration. In heavy commercial, any storage, any display and storage would prompt an SUP. So any storage, so like if I have a contractor's yard and I want to store spools of wire, that has to be screened. If the property owner wants to bring that to the streetscape, largely our ordinance requires an SUP. It's interesting that our zoning ordinance specifies portable buildings, and we're classifying storm shelters as a line item to be handled with an SUP as well. So it kind of distinguishes it from merchandise display and produce that we saw on the last one where it said farmers market produce, occasional sales, or general market. That's a specified line item as well. So your saunas would kick in an SUP requirement. Portable building sales, like the portable buildings that I would put a lawnmower in behind my house that I wanted to put out to the street front, and heavy commercial would kick in an SUP. So to come back around and hopefully address your question, you wouldn't see a proliferation of portable buildings pop up in the front of stores because they didn't get their SUP. That's typically what you would see in our zoning ordinance. There's not a whole lot of industrial zoning districts where it's allowed by right located in the city. So those properties that are zoned industrial, and there's not many of them, can do it by right. Outside of that, it would typically kick in an SUP permit requirement to come before council. The real test here is when you look at these, you look at adjacency issues, compatibility issues, and then you have the test of equity. You have to apply this uniformly throughout the city. So there are some areas of the city that are more industrial, heavy commercial oriented, where you suspect to see this type of activity, as opposed to one where you may have a drive-in restaurant or a Sonic or a Dairy Queen that's out of character, where you would see a portable building. That's your discretion under this SUP process. So you can look at it more case by case. I hope I answered your question.
It's a whole lot like the golf cart storage outside, really, you think about it.
Except it doesn't have the advertisement on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, it's outdoor merchandising.
Yeah,
That's what
that's
we're
all it
really
is, right.
looking at. I mean, it's a product that no doubt we support, but that's what we're trying to work through is we're calling it an outdoor building, but it's a portable building. I mean, those saunas you're talking about are portable too and are mounted outside of people's backyard.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, yeah.
And from what I can see of the zoning ordinance, it distinguishes probably building sales, portable building sales, because of the bulk and size to be up, as opposed to lawnmowers. Say if I'm a business owner and I want to push 5 lawnmowers out there for outside merchandise sale, that's seemingly less intrusive, and I could push them back in during business hours than a portable building that's out there, 24 hours a day.
It's interesting that the neighbor put up a prohibited sign as soon as they saw that building sitting there.
So again, your Planning and Zoning Commission, 3-2 vote. They didn't mind issuing a 1-year terms to see how this plays out and where it goes from here. That's the report from your Planning Commission with those conditions. And again, one of those important conditions is the first one regarding the ZBA and the application of that commercial advertising. So back to it. That's more of that first one kind of hints at that this is a conditional approval. They still have to get through ZBA for the commercial advertising. Now they can get denied the commercial advertising, take the commercial advertising wrap off, and still meet the test of the SUP if the council approves it.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Parsons?
a couple of questions for the owner. What size did you say this building was?
Mayor, it's a 4x6.
4x6? And is this the largest one they make?
No, sir, we can make them for schools to go underneath a school. We can make them to go underneath buildings. That's, in some states, in some cities, it's required now that you have a storm shelter for the children. So we can make them as large as, anyone would like. We also have under the ground in the garage ones. This is just to get
Quite a few
people to know
different
where to find them.
All right, thanks. Mr. Mayor, having heard that, I would suggest that if we, planning and zoning talked about here, that on item 3, where it says that only one storm shelter.
Right.
And that would be 4 by 6 or smaller.
Should we change that?
So if
Right.
it's council's pleasure to move forward, that.
So on item number 3, it'd be only one 4x6 storm
Or
shelter shall
smaller.
be displayed, or smaller. Okay.
You're making a motion on that, right?
Okay.
Well, I was just saying, if we decide to go that way.
Right.
And
I agree.
I guess I would make that motion, Mayor, as approved by planning and zoning, items 1, 2, and then on number 3, to add that storm shelter will be a 4 by 6 or
Along with item number 4 and 5.
and 4 and 5. Yes, sir. Thank you.
So we have a motion to recommend approval
I'll
with
second
the
it,
said
Mayor.
conditions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Councilman Parsons.
I'll second, Mayor.
And we have a second by Councilman Allen. Council, any more discussion on this item? If not, council, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
We have one nay. That is approved. Moving to item number 13 is a public hearing to consider approving a request of Ecobrand Real Estate for the construction of an irrigation water well located at 3500 West 377 Granbury, Texas 76048. I'm going to call upon Chris Coffin, our city manager. I'm sure he's got some staff that want to give a report on this one. If you would, please, Chris.
As y'all are aware, I'll just tell you this property is located in the city's ETJ, and Rick has been working with the folks over there, so I'll turn it over to Rick Crownover, our Public Works Director.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Mayor, council members, Mr. Kaufman. Equibrand Real Estate's requesting approval to construct an irrigation water well on their said property at 3500 West Highway 377. It's not in the city limits. It is in our extraterritorial jurisdiction, which stretches out a mile out past the loop. The application you have there in front of you is a completed application along with a letter of recommendation from Jeff Bennett at Bennett Well Drilling. 4-inch casing, 300 feet irrigation. There's his contact information. Approximate cost. Survey map and plat included in the packet as well. Staff also added to your packet City Ordinance Section 13-17.003. If water service from the city or another utility district is not available within 1,000 feet of the property line of subject property, a private water well or irrigation well for a single-family residence may be drilled only upon the issuance of a well drilling permit as follows. It does not say commercial. On said property, there is a public water supply. It is a viable well. It's approximately 25 gallon a minute per well. The well production for the first 6 months of this year is a little over 1.5 million gallons. So there is available water nearby. Staff researched this a little further. The well that is on property is right up against their building, and they're wanting to drill this well, as you see on the plat or on the map, at the back of their property line. This does meet Upper Trinity groundwater requirements. As I said, it does not meet city code. So there's a little more to this. I did not include in the staff report that happened several years ago on the preliminary plat and the final plat of this said property. I'd be happy to go into that if needed. So I think approximately 5 years ago on the preliminary plat, as part of the construction, best I can tell, the construction of this building, there was not wanting to be a fire sprinkler system constructed. So there was a water well drilled and dedicated to the city along with a $60,000 storage tank. It was dedicated. Some qualifications to that was for the duration of this 5-year commitment, there would not be any metered water to the city. This agreement has since lapsed. I have some usage for the past 4 or 5 months. I'll be glad to give those to you. In April of this year, there was 75,000 gallons usage. In May, 325,000 gallons. In June, 200,000. And the past month in July, 186,000. So apparently when this agreement has lapsed, I get this application for an irrigation water well on said property.
So what's happening is they're having to pay thousands of dollars for their water for landscaping.
It appears that way, sir, yes.
Are they using that well for both though right now? They're using for landscaping and their use in their plant or whatever it is?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
And they've been doing that
Okay.
since its inception.
And it hasn't changed owners, right?
Not to my knowledge, no, sir. And I don't know if the owner is here tonight. I have not met him.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah.
I'd be happy to answer any more questions you may have, so.
Okay.
One more thing I might add. Staff is recommending denial of this application.
Let me open the public hearing and then we'll come back.
Yes, no problem there.
Okay.
Thank you, sorry.
Okay, at this time, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody in the public wish to speak on this item? And you said the owner is out there?
Ed Pender.
Okay.
Representative.
Okay, there is a representative out there. If nobody in the public wishes to speak on this item, we'll close the public hearing. Council, do you have any questions or concerns on this item? Councilman Allen?
Thank you, Mayor. Rick, you were saying that they were using 75 in May, 125 in June, is that correct?
No, sir. In April, it was 75,000 gallons. In May, it was 325,600. In June, it was 200,000. And last month in July, it was 186,000.
Okay.
And again, for the first 6 months of the year, it was 1.56 million gallons.
How close is the nearest water service line to them?
It's approximately
250.
down close to the substation.
Well, how far would we have to run water to get it to them?
That's our well now.
It is our
sir.
well.
I understand
that is our
I understand it, but it's not coming off city water, right?
Yeah.
It is
City
our water well.
Okay, I wasn't on council, but I thought they drilled a well when they built.
They
And
did
they
it,
dedicated it to us.
dedicated to us, and we've been operating as a public water supply for their business.
Okay, this new one, are they wanting to do the same?
No. They just want to irrigate with
They
it.
want to build a separate well for irrigation.
We still charge money to irrigate. I got a $500 and something dollar bill last month. Most of that was irrigation in my home. Over. No questions.
But see, it's city water, and they're paying for that for irrigation, and what they're using right now, they want to have the permission to drill another well just for irrigation use.
Okay.
And as you can see, you can do that for a residential but not commercial, and so that's what they're asking for.
I went on council, but I was coming this year. I remember a lot of the conversation when they built out there, and Mr. Parson was here. He can probably know more about it than I do. I knew they drilled a well, but I didn't realize it was our well.
They dedicated to us.
But we didn't charge them for 5 years.
Right.
Okay. Now, we don't get any tax revenue off of them either, do we? Sales tax?
No property or sales.
I don't know what they do out there now. It's just an office. Yeah.
All right.
We can ask Mr. Pender, he's here if he'd like.
Yeah, you got the owner out there. If you want to ask them questions to him.
I have a couple questions for Mr. Crownover. We didn't have an independent water source. What effect that'll have on our well at that site?
The groundwater district approves wells this close. I checked into that twice. I don't agree with it. It's that close, but they approved it. But no, I didn't have an independent check it. No, sir.
But the only use of that well fire suppression tank, right?
Yes.
They use it for
Would those type of usages deplete that tank and keep it from functioning?
No, it's adequate.
They use this well currently for irrigation and for their employees inside that business.
Everything.
And that's why we're managing it for them, so they didn't have to provide a public water supply.
Okay.
We're doing it for them as a service, being in our ETJ.
What was their usage in January and February?
I didn't go back that far.
Huh?
I didn't go back that far.
Still inside the agreement.
That's right. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Mobley?
so if we look at the timeline, 5 years ago, they dig a well.
Yes.
They say, we're going to donate it to the city, we're going to use water for free. What's your understanding, what do you think was the agreement, with the understanding of the agreement going from this point 5 years ago?
They would be charged for the use of the water.
Okay, so now that we get to this point where we're going to have to start writing checks to the city for said water, now we're wanting to rework the deal. Is that your understanding?
It appears that way to me, sir.
That's, I just wanted to make sure that's what I was hearing.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I might just add that to buffer this conversation somewhat, this is a business, they provide jobs. I believe they still make horse tack at that location. I don't know exactly how many employees they do have, but they do need potable water, and we're providing that for them through this agreement. You know, as you recall, we were going to run a 12-inch water line to this site with a grant to expand their business, and that didn't pan out for them to be beneficial, so they moved on. And we would have a 12-inch water line there today if we'd been able to secure their site through economic development purposes. So it's been a little rough. I hate to see them leave over something like this, but you know, I don't know what their intentions are if you don't approve it, but I would certainly think that you know, they're spending thousands of dollars to keep their landscape looking good, and that's a value to our community too. When you come into town, you see that. So I just wanted to buffer the conversation a little bit and add those positive aspects.
Thank you.
You're saying that they told you if we didn't approve this?
No, they never said anything like that.
Isn't this the same company that if we didn't do something, they were going to move us?
This is the same company that relocated their rope manufacturer.
Steve,
Yeah. I mean,
So council, any more questions for Mr. Crownover?
Mr. Mayor, I do have a letter from TCEQ about this well, and it is completed and all good, and meets state standards.
About the existing well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There you have it, council.
if they dig the well, Mayor, does that mean that the water they're producing now, the 25 gallon a minute, we can sell it?
We can already sell it to someone else.
I know, but yeah, we got a customer lined up to replace them.
Nobody around there.
No.
Right now.
There's nobody there.
There's nobody there.
Yeah, it's kind of like Kroger's. Whenever we give them the go out to the new place, we lost about $50,000-$60,000 a month in electrical bill that we didn't recover. Huh? So.
There's no profit margin in that deal.
No, it wasn't.
Just cash flow.
Council, any more discussion on this one? So it would entertain a motion that for either to approve or deny the request of Ecobrand Real Estate for the construction of an irrigation water well. Do I have a motion?
I'll move for approval.
I got a motion to approve it by Mr. Parsons, Councilman Parsons.
Second.
I got a second by Councilman Couch. Any more discussion, council? I'm going to have a record vote on this one. Councilman Parsons, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Allen, how do you vote?
Nay.
Councilman Couch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Mobley, how do you vote?
Nay.
Councilman Myers, how do you vote?
Nay.
We have 3 nays to approve. It is denied. Item number 14. Discuss and consider taking action on signage to discourage truck traffic downtown.
Do what?
That was in the public hearing. If you wanted to stand up and do that, sir, you could have come up and talked. Item number 14, discuss and consider taking action on signage to discourage truck traffic downtown and police patrols. Councilman Couch had put this on the agenda item, so I'm going to have Councilman Couch just open the discussion here, if you would, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I asked to put this on the agenda as the street construction project continues and evolves. This is just one aspect, I believe, that addresses or could address some of the issues with the tight turning radiuses and the commercial vehicles that are downtown. So I know Chris has done some analysis for us, so I'll turn that back over to him.
Okay. Before we go to the next slide, Scott, I would like to point out that those are two different trucks at the same corner, and you can see the difficulty they're having. I would like to point out that that's the detour route. Bridge Street is a detour temporary while we're finishing Pearl Street. Pearl Street is much wider than that street. Are we going to still have problems? Yes. We had problems before we started this project, and we also will continue to have them afterwards. I believe you can go to the next slide. There's a breakdown of some stats that we've done. We did a visual of microphone seems to be cutting out.
Yeah,
did a visual of aerial survey with the drone, and you can see that we have the barrel, the little white buttons, no barrel, and the grand total of hits, misses, and the grand total of vehicles that went through the intersection in those different ways. I would like to say that the best result, or I guess to me the barrel was the best result, but that's a temporary fix. With the buttons, we had some pretty good results. And then no barrel, you can see that we had 17 hits. And that's by different types of vehicles. It's not just by semi-trucks, it's by cars. And so as we go to the next slide, you can see that the pickup is the most frequent flyer running over the curb on the turn radius. And of course, we have more pickups per capita than semi-trucks, and so that shows that as well. SUVs are also listed there. I will say that I was standing in front of Farina's, kind of monitoring the traffic, and noticed that a car about the size of a Mini Cooper ran over the curb as well. So it doesn't matter the wheelbase in particular. So it's driving and driving skills. Let's go to the next slide. This is a picture of a familiar intersection, Overstreet, or Boat Club Road, as it says on the sign there. I don't know where you took this, but it was sent to me by Mayor Pro Tem. You can see that truck tire there. That's a 5-lane road. Trucks still run over the curb. It's a similar curb to what we have. It has the pie-shaped interior with the curb rails. Has your 2 ADA ramps. It's much larger than what our curves are, but the principle still remains. Regardless of the turn radius that you build, they're going to run over it, and that's what they're doing. And so let's go to the next slide. You can see it again with a little different clarity. You can actually see the tire treads running across that. You can see the corner where they hit the corner of the hard corner of the concrete, and it goes across there and continues on, and it hits the other corner of the hard concrete on the extreme there. So the next picture, well, I guess we'll back up. That's all. Let's go back to that study, those white slides, please. one more back. There you go. I would propose that we've got the problem a little bit resolved with the buttons. Somewhere in this presentation, there's supposed to be a link to some video, Rick. Do you know where that is? Okay, let's play that. There we go. Let's go to the third one in that bottom right. There you go. Now, the curb test short clip to the right is the one we want over here. It's about a minute long. This shows and has some words put with it.
I know what the words are there.
Look out.
Just barely.
Somebody wants to cut.
So that's with the barrel. He still ran over the curb.
Pretty good driver there.
He's going to hit it.
How you know that's a he?
Easy.
All right, let's go to back to that slide that has the three. For all practical purposes, go to the number one curb test. This is without any improvement whatsoever. Just those little cones sitting there. This is what we saw 2 weeks ago. As far as looking at what happens, and we put those cones out to try to highlight that there's a little pie-shaped piece of concrete there. We'd advise them not to ruin their tire on. But as you see that oncoming truck at the bottom, as they drive through that intersection, he won't hit it because he didn't hit that white stripe that's marked to maintain the lane width. Where you see people hitting that curb on the right turn from this coming in from Weatherford Highway, it's where they encroach on that white line, the white hash marks. And so, see, like that one, they're cutting it awfully close. Now, their wheelbase is small enough they'll probably miss it. But to hit it with a small wheelbase car, you got to be turning pretty sharp. Granted, semi-trucks are always going to have a problem here. But in the future, semi-trucks will be heading straight to Pearl Street through this intersection and then turn right or left from there. And I'm just going to kind of let it run a minute. We've got over an hour's worth of video here. I'm not going to bore you with it. But I want you to see notice the number of trucks there aren't. Our police have been monitoring that and working that from different locations throughout the city. There's a truck route designated, and I thought I had it in this presentation. It's in my minutes. It's in my agenda packet, but it's not in here on the presentation. As that runs, let me look this up right quick. There is an established truck route, and there's signage, and that slide is in the council packet, but it's not in this presentation. But you can see there's not a lot of trucks going through that intersection at this particular time of day. They tried to do it during the heavy traffic portions of the day. Now, this truck trailer will probably come real close. He may have grazed it. If you would, let's stop this one and go to the one with the little buttons, which is the middle slideshow. Now, we installed these buttons as a test, a trial, and what we felt like we were doing is establishing a better direction for the rear tire for the driver to understand that they're going to hit something, a warning signal, so to speak. There's your cement truck or concrete truck. He's going to turn left, so it doesn't matter. You won't be able to get any information from him. You can see as they turn, they're encroaching on the stop bar of the other traffic on a pretty regular basis.
What is that? What the heck going on?
Watch that cart runs over the boom. He ran over the button and done that one too. He went on straight a little further though. But bottom line is, it's change. It's never going to be easy. It's different. The turn radiuses exceed the minimum standards for urban design. You know, if we didn't have the 4-foot bulb out curbs, we wouldn't need those little bulbs there to show people where to drive. But we were required to do a 4-foot bulb out because of the historical aspect of our square, and we were only allowed it to make it big enough for ADA ramp with that landing that has to be at the top of the ramp. And you can see very clearly that's what we've constructed. If you look at the Farina's building, there's a landing, those 2 rectangular walk paths for the ADA. You can see those pedestrians actually stepped up on the curb instead of taking the ramp, stepped down. We are talking about possibly flaring out those pie-shaped and making that where there's not an interior curb. We'll bring that back to the council at a later date, but that would be a change order and would require some tearing out and some new concrete being poured. We were talking about possibly putting the pavers in that area, but after looking at the initial cost, I decided let's talk about staining that concrete. ADA requires it to be a different color than those ADA ramps, and so we need to just color that with some concrete stain, and we could do that when it's wet with the proper stuff, and it would maintain a lifelong color contrast. So that's kind of where we're at. Now, there was a question about additional signage, and I've got a proposal that we've already sent to TxDOT where staff has gone out and inventoried the existing truck route signs. They have minimal truck route signs posted, but they're the minimal, and they meet the requirements that TxDOT requires. And any licensed CDL driver knows that when he sees a truck route sign with those arrows, that's the way he's supposed to go. And so we have a lot of folks still learning about the truck route and coming through town regardless of that. Just like the first picture you looked at, we had a truck there with some kind of a material truck that was completely empty going through our square. Maybe he was unloading for the construction team, I don't know. So, but it is a legal delivery to go anywhere inside the city with a load. And if the police officer pulls these folks over and they have a bill of lading that says they're going to go unload freight somewhere, then we let them go. Otherwise, they've been writing tickets to them and enforcing the law and helping them get out of tight spots where they got themselves in trouble. And so we're trying to serve and protect at the same time. But as you see all these, you can see there's not an awful lot of trucks coming through here at this time of day. And this was during the noon hour on Friday, last Friday. And so this guy's going to hit the concrete when it goes around. See, he hit those bulbs, and there he goes. This guy, too.
Yeah, he may not.
Well, he missed it. Now then, we talked about possibly needing to assign more officers just to patrol this issue. I would contend that our guys are filling in pretty good. There's no way to be there all the time, but again, the truck route can be enforced all over town in other places besides on the square. And so they're patrolling and taking care of that business as they see it. But Mitch informed me that they've assigned a specific code name for close patrol to the downtown square, and they are monitoring that on a regular basis as they have time allowed. As you are aware, we are about complete shift low on officers right now, and so to just dictate someone to work an 8-hour shift at that location for an entire month, 4 days a week, would run in overtime with benefits would be about $8,000. And so if the council would like to move forward to do something like that, we'll appropriate the money in a budget amendment to allow Mitch to go over his line item for overtime and see if we can get some folks to work overtime in addition to what they're already working because of our split staff. So.
Is that $8,000 a month?
Yes, sir. Mitch, would you like to contribute to this? Police Chief Mitch Galvan. Welcome.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. City Manager, one little insight on this that might help you make a decision on whether or not you want to pay to have an officer work an overtime shift there. For 3 days, I had bike patrol there, 2 officers for 3 straight days, and they worked 5 hours on that square. And in that time period, they averaged about 2 to 3 big trucks came through. 3 trucks that came through were making a delivery downtown, and they were coming in the wrong direction to make the delivery, and they helped correct them on which way would be best for them to come in without having to try and maneuver through the square. Only thing they saw all day were pickup trucks and passenger cars running over curbs. That's something that can't be enforced. That's not against the law to run over a curb. There were no big trucks that came through there. I can tell you right now that the majority of the time, if it was a pickup truck pulling any type of utility, small utility trailer, they were hitting the curb. It's not the big trucks that are coming through there running over the curb all day long. It's passenger cars and pickup trucks. I don't know if you want to pay to have an officer sit there, pay overtime to have an officer watch cars and trucks run over curbs. We're not seeing a huge problem with semis coming through there, and when they do, trust me, they're getting a ticket. But that's not a huge problem. You can watch this tape all day long, and you're going to see more cars and trucks run over that thing, and you won't see one big semi come through. We are short-staffed, as the city manager says. Our guys are very taxed, having to work skeleton shifts now, trying to get somebody to work overtime to watch cars run over curbs. I do not think will be well worth the time or the effort. My 2 cents worth. Any questions?
So commission sales will be out there.
Yeah, I think you would be out the window.
Well, as you can see, we've been watching this for quite some time. This is during the noon hour, and there's not a lot of semi trucks running through there. So I think the word is getting out to our semi trucks. To those drivers that frequent us have already, learned the hard way. I will say that I was in a restaurant, a local cafe, 3 weeks ago. No, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, and they didn't know who I was. I was just sitting there randomly on a Saturday morning, and a gentleman gets up, and I hear him tell his partner at the coffee shop, well, I'm going to go see if I can make it through downtown alive. And so obviously he was going to drive through the square, and was concerned about the turn radiuses and the safety and the changes that are going on. It is a construction zone. We do recognize that there's problems with that, and I think that we need to finish what we're doing on Pearl Street, assess the situation. We need to come back on Bridge Street and assess these turns some more. We can present that at another meeting. I would also like for this council to know, and everybody in the public and on social media that's watching, to understand that Bridge Street had a water leak with an irrigation line that was installed. We've got that turned off, and it's causing the road to fail. So once we get through with Pearl Street, we're going to have to go back over and close Bridge Street for just a little while to fix that water leak and then repave that area of failed pavement. And so while we're getting close to the end, there are some snags that have to be dealt with. The other intersection on Pearl.
Chief, I want to ask Chief a question.
Go ahead, of course.
Well, I know in the budget, I was trying to find it real quick. I know we got overtime because we talked about in our budget for the police department. $8,000 a month is a lot of money.
That's not a month.
That's what you said.
No, I didn't say that.
I said that.
Chris said that, I'm sorry.
I said
Was that a day?
No, that's for a month.
I thought that was for a week. For one officer? Okay, oh yeah, okay, one officer. Yeah, that's
Okay,
for one officer.
8,000 a month is what an officer
And that's an
makes.
average, that's an average.
Yeah, that's an average.
Okay, so we're paying our officers now $96,000 a year.
No, sir.
said
Overtime,
8,000 a
overtime,
month.
overtime rate
Overtime.
is
Time and a half
more
for
than what a
overtime.
regular
Okay,
rate
so we're
is.
paying them $62,000, okay. But regardless, let me
With
ask.
benefits, you
Chief,
probably
yeah,
are.
we are, and I agree, it's okay. But what I'm gonna ask you is, I gotten 2 pictures sent to me by individuals on a square, and one of them had an officer behind him with with his lights on. I don't know if you seen that or not. I sent it to Chris.
No, I did not send it to him.
Okay. But my question is this. How many tickets do y'all write a day or a week, let's say a week, on trucks coming through town?
I have no idea.
Does any of your department head know, or does anybody know?
I'd have to go through there and look at the citation to see how many were actually written.
I would like to see that. If I need open record on it, I'll request it in the morning. I'd like to know how many trucks actually get a ticket that comes through our city on a monthly average, just a month.
Okay, are you talking about coming through the square?
Yes, uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, just the square.
We
You
can
know,
get that
how many
for
comes
you.
through our town? Do what?
We can get that for you.
Yeah.
All right.
You don't need a records request.
All right, thank you.
We'll take care of you.
Okay, and then I want to know how many got warning tickets.
We may have that as well.
Yeah, they should have it, right, Chief?
Possibly, yes. If they
you wrote
if they gave them a
warning ticket, you'll
verbal,
have
if they
one.
gave them a verbal warning, then no, there's not going to be a record of that, no.
Because what I'm hearing on the street, kind of like what Chris is saying he heard in the cafe, is that and I'm not knocking the police by no means. I'm for all every one of them. My grandson's a policeman in Fort Worth. But they're not getting tickets, but they're getting a warning saying don't come back through. And this guy said, I seen the same truck come through the next week.
Now, my question would be, how does he know what he's getting and what he's not getting unless he's the driver?
I'm just saying, I heard it on the street.
And I'm asking that question, and I would ask him that question. How do you know whether he's getting a citation or a warning, because they're all done on the same form?
Only thing I would think of is that he probably just seen them not get anything, and I'm only guessing.
Well, he would have had to been sitting there watching for a long time to know whether or not somebody was given a piece of paper or not,
He
because
could
it
have
takes a
done it.
while to actually issue that citation.
This guy
So-
gives some pretty good pictures. But all I'm saying is, if we can get that, and then we look at it in the next council, if we want to do 8,000 a month or a week or whatever it is.
Well, again, I'm sitting here with an hour worth of video and over an hour's worth of
Okay.
video. If you'd like, I can get it and you can see how many trucks there are.
Yeah, but most times trucks come early in the morning.
I don't have that on the slide. It's not in the presentation, but I do have this. We can talk about this without the public seeing it, I guess.
If you can summarize our sign plan.
We do have, one time, council, we do have also a gentleman that wants to explain the handout that he's left with us, and I have spoken with him, let him to talk about this at this time, because it was on the citizen participation. As you know, citizen participation would involve a council item. So I'm going to let Carter Scholl kind of explain his handout here after everybody's talked about it. Yeah, go ahead and leave it running. You can leave that running.
Put it back on there. I want them to see how
Thank you,
long.
Mr. Mayor. As we approach the completion, as we approach the completion of our Champs-Élysées, Texas, we have some inherent problems, and we've been talking about it all night long. I have to go back about 45 years when I drove a big old brown UPS truck. I'd hate to be driving it around these turns that have come from this redesign here. The facts are facts that there are 3 highways converging through the square. We've got 377 business, we've got 4, we've got 51. Mr. Kaufman, I'd like to take you on a ride that I took last week. And I challenge you to show me where the truck route sign is on 51 coming in, or where it is on 4 coming in, and there's not one coming in on 377 South. The one that we do have is on the bridge coming into town. It's a very nondescript sign, and there's nothing really saying, hey, keep your tail from coming in to the town here. There would be ways to ensure the vehicular traffic and the foot traffic that our city, that our downtown has, by making sure that these trucks stay out. Additional messaging, I would say, is needed for the sign that's out there and the ones that should be. There is a sign that says no through trucks that I've seen. Strictly enforced might be added to the existing sign. Perhaps a flashing yellow sign with solar power, so we don't have to run an electric line out there, to bring attention to the sign, because they're coming up to it across from the barbecue pit, and they better be making a right turn and going through town. Now, granted, we're going to have semis coming in and delivering to some of the places in town, but there are ways that I've seen in other towns, and we're not doing it right now. So we either spruce up the sign that's there or put a series of Burma shave signs along saying, you better turn now, turn back now, this ain't the way to go. However you want to do it, but we're not doing what we could be doing to ensure that our downtown is going to be safe. This needs action now, and it needs to be enforced.
We're on that, and we're fixing to show you the map.
Yeah, and thank you, Carter, for that, because we are ordering more signs for all the gateways to our town and enforce it. So it's something new to all of us, and it's new to the whole community too, as Chris has talked about. So there's going to be some stuff that we've got to do going forward. Chris?
Mr. Mayor, may I interject?
Councilman Parsons?
For Carter's edification and other people's edification, I think Mr. Kaufman and I were standing right there with the district engineer when he told us that he would send a new guy around to check all the signage on all of these truck routes to improve them. And so what you're seeing is the new improved TxDOT signs.
And we also did that about a year ago when we had that conversation.
Yeah. Right.
And so this map shows the signs. What are in green are what we are asking to be added. And also, Rick Crownover has contacted them last week with an order also. Could you explain that?
The TxDOT has on order some of the bigger 4x8 signs that you see when you come across the bridge for all of our gateways. They should be here, well, it's the state, but 60 days, hopefully, sooner than later. But they are big, the big 4x8s, in addition to the smaller signs that we have took it upon ourselves to install at our gateways at Highway 4, 51, 377 coming across the bridge, and at the loops from 377 coming west too. So we're working to get this signage up and improve it, but the minimal signage is there. I've been working on that since last year with them, but we're working to improve it, I assure you.
Mayor.
Councilman Couch.
Rick, does the large signs show the fines or anything like that?
I don't believe they do.
And I think what Mitch had mentioned, and I got educated on that also here not too long ago, is that most of your truck drivers with the license, they know that when it says truck route, they know what the fines are, they know what the penalties are, they know what they're supposed to do. That is part of their training. So that's why you don't see a lot of all the description on the signs as, you know, they know when it says truck route that that's what they're supposed to use, or they're subject to all the above.
Well, I would like to see if there isn't verbiage that talks about fines or penalties, I would like to see if we can add that. Below the sign, above the sign.
Guess we can see if there's such a sign, yeah.
Not only has Rick ordered those signs, but we sent this order to the folks in Fort Worth at TxDOT, to the traffic engineering part, and we're asking for a dozen more signs as they're highlighted in green here. The others are existing inventory of signs that are located currently, and so like I say, I think we got the minimal, but we need more, and we're asking for them from TxDOT.
And a lot of the states,
we're willing to pay for them.
a lot of the state signs are just your typical black and white signs. The ones we have added, they're trying to be funny, but they're kind of those round Ghostbuster signs, and they're done in red, so they're pretty hard to miss, even if they're small. So you can see them. If you drive our gateways now, you'll see those signs. So,
But there again, the drivers of the trucks, though, are just no different than me driving my car, and if I'm driving in a 55-mile speed zone and I'm doing 75, I know what the penalty is when I get caught. I don't have to have it written down there, and they know what the penalty is. They know what they're going to get when they go in a non-truck route.
they talk amongst each other.
They know
Yes,
that.
do. Yes, they
That's
do.
part of their license, and that's part of my license when I learn to drive.
Let me ask you a question, Mayor. Chris, you said if they didn't put them up, the city'd be willing to pay for them?
Even if they put them up, we told them we would be willing to pay for them.
Okay. When are they gonna let us know?
Well, who knows?
Technology.
Rex talked to them and they said they'll get it done.
Later this year.
And the mayor pro tem, y'all talked a year ago, and, they're not up. I think it's time the city just get them done and get them up. Pay for it.
Well, that's what we intend to do.
Just do it. Need a motion?
No, I got it.
Just do it.
So that's our plan, and just wanted to make y'all aware of that in response to this agenda item.
Council, any more discussion? This item is a discussion item, but if there's any action that we need to take on it, then I would entertain a motion if there's one. If not, we'll go forward with what our staff has got planned and see how that works.
We aim to please, we
Very
really
well.
do.
Item number 15. We will discuss the proposed fiscal year 2017-18 annual budget and set the date, time, and the place for the public hearing to receive the public input on the proposed fiscal year 2017-18 annual budget. And I'm going to start out with Mr. Chris Kaufman, our city manager, and I'm sure he's got some staff report on this.
First off, I'd like to thank our finance department for helping and developing this budget, and you've got a hard copy to the public. There's one available. It's a draft of our budget. It's one available on our city website. And we would like to let Ava give you a brief update of some changes that have been made since our last budget workshop. There's a few changes that have been tweaked. I think it'd be good for you to know that. So you don't have to try to discover them for yourself with the budget. Ava, would you like to summarize those changes for us?
Yes. Thank you, City Manager, Mayor, Council. I wanted to just exactly say what Chris said. Since our budget workshop, we have gone back and made some of the recommended changes you had. We also received the certified values and tax rate calculation that we have incorporated into our budget. Doesn't look like the slide has the reconciliation I have included in your packet, but I'm showing you step-by-step changes that were made to the proposed budget. I also wanted to add that I only handed out the budget book to you tonight. It was completed yesterday and filed with the City Secretary's office as required by our charter. It will be on display on our website for over 30 days until the budget is scheduled for adoption on September 5th for you and the public to be able to review it. With that said, I want to go ahead and go over the changes, the proposed changes, reconciliation included. It's on page 173 of your packet. Yeah, I emailed it. I just want to make sure that the council is able to see that. I wanted to also add that during the budget workshop, we had reviewed in detail the all the revenue assumptions for the general fund and the utility fund, as well as the tourism fund and airport fund. And we have reviewed line item detail of all the expense line items for all the departments. So the changes that we have incorporated into our budget are just few changes for the general fund and the tourism fund. So I don't know if you are able to see it on your agenda packet, but it was page 173.
173?
Mm-hmm. It was attached to agenda item 15. It looks like this.
173 right there. 74.
15 or 16?
15 with the
15,
budget.
right?
15, yeah, it looks like this.
In the council package.
The council packet
175.
that was emailed out to you. You didn't get?
175 on mine. You didn't get the latest update. They added some things.
I found it first.
Can't pull it up, Rick? Well, there was an email from Ava there with PowerPoint presentation.
The tax rate.
Yeah, it's
That
tax
was the
rate.
tax rate. I was just
That's
trying
the
to
next
grab the page 173 and 175 of the agenda packet that was
Can you
emailed
pull up the
out.
agenda packet and go to item 15? Scroll down to the information page.
That ought to be simple.
Visual. Got all this good technology, we want to be able to use it.
So as he's looking for that, Ava, these are all the add-ons, right?
Yes, I can go ahead and talk about it because
don't-
I
yeah, why
know
don't you go ahead?
you can see that. At the budget workshop, we had reconciled the general fund. So there was a zero difference between revenue and expenditures as we left the budget. The only changes what we made, we had received the certified valuations last week. So there was a slight change for the appraised valuation, only $1,794 that we added to the revenue
Okay.
because the property valuations came in slightly higher than we projected during the budget workshop. We also adjusted the budget and incorporated the effective tax rate that was provided to us last Friday. That generated another $22,000. As you know, the effective tax rate is the tax rate that will generate the same revenue as we generated last year on our property valuation when we are taxing the same properties in both years. On the expense side, we had added the legal expense for the Lake Level Coalition. That was $25,000. We also added another $15,000 for park maintenance of grounds, and that was for the Bluebonnet Wild Mix, wildflower mix. We had reduced one of the line items for internet subscriptions because we were able to negotiate a better rate with Charter. That was in the amount of $12,480. And we also made some other miscellaneous reductions in the amount of $3,648. So the net change for the revenue and expense is $23,872. So we balanced the general fund budget as presented to you. We have not made any changes to the utility fund. And on the tourism fund side, we had reviewed the conference center department and made the following changes.
You're close.
Yeah, there it is.
There it is.
Not very clear.
Good job, Rick. Way to.
So the tourism fund budget, we had reduced the facility rental by $34,500, and that was based on the trend that we are following at this time, year to date.
Still the general. Okay, well,
We increased the alcohol beverage sale by $10,000.
Tourism.
let Rick catch you
and-
up there. There you go. Okay.
So on the conference side, center side, we had made a revenue adjustment of, we reduced revenue by $24,500. Again, $34,000 of that was for facility rental, and we increased the alcohol beverage sale by $10,000. On the expense side, we went through the expenses and were able to reduce the ancillary item expense line item by $12,000, the maintenance of buildings by $5,000, travel and training by $1,000, equipment rental by $3,985. We increased the alcoholic beverage for resale and the mixed beverage gross receipt tax based on the increased revenue. We had also made reduction for miscellaneous expense line item, and we don't have to renew the TABC license next year because it's renewed every 2 years. So we were able to reduce the conference center budget expenditures by $24,500. We were able to make these changes just within the conference center department, and we didn't have to change the transfer in or out of the tourism fund. So in overall, these are the changes that we had made for the general fund and the tourism fund. I wanted to be able to answer any questions you might have on the budget, and also just highlight that the public hearing is recommended to be set for September 5th during a regular council meeting that is scheduled, and or if council votes to schedule to the public hearing for September 5th, that is what's recommended by staff. I also wanted to bring your attention to the budget book. As you can see, it is organized the same way as it has been over the several years. It has sections that you may review. We have upgraded the charts and the graphs and the pictures, included some new sections that highlights the construction in progress, all the projects the city is working on. Under the overview section, you have the letter from the city manager addressing and highlighting what is going on in the city. And we have also added a new tab for each department, interesting facts. If you will be able to review that, some did you know facts. So the book really has been updated and easy to follow, and we have included larger fonts and sharper graphics for your review as well. But at this time, I'm available to answer any questions you might have.
We did all that for you, Councilman Allen.
Thank you. May I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Back to your beverage, alcohol. I know I quit drinking, so I know the sales are down. But if I read that right, you said y'all did a sales of $10,000. Is that correct?
What we did based on year-to-date actuals, the alcohol beverage sale is up 30% compared to previous year. So we adjusted our projection up.
Up 10?
Yes.
Okay, but your expenses is going to go up. For buying, it's going to go up also.
Yes, and it did, yes.
Okay, but your license shouldn't go up.
It's not going up.
It's a debit.
Okay, and that's why it's not in there then?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. What was our total sales, do you know, last year in alcohol?
Yes, I do. I'm gonna look at my
It
handy
says-
dandy
okay.
budget book.
It's in the budget
And
book.
it's on page 168.
158?
168.
The one you gave us today?
Yes.
I hadn't got that for you yet.
168.
So it was 51,386.
51.
Few events and a lot.
And why again did we adjust it with 10,000?
Because we budgeted.
Oh.
So we actually budgeted 40,000 at the budget workshop, and we adjusted it up to 50,000.
Tourism fund revenue.
Nice book.
About the middle of the page, top half of the middle.
Right there. I was trying to-
51,386.
We don't have a total of how much we lost yet, do we,
No,
overall?
year's not over.
Scary.
Oh, no.
Not any more than what we predicted.
Yeah.
Estimated.
So basically, we're not taking any action on this budget. It's just to appoint
Well, it's a-
place and set a date for the public hearing. And so that's what we need to.
and also for Ava to go ahead and, let us know the changes and the things that she's just pointed out to us so that we can be aware of that. But you're exactly right. And in order to comply with the public hearing requirements, the publication deadline is the hearing for this fiscal year annual budget is scheduled during the regular city council meeting, which would be September the 5th, 2017 at 6 p.m. here at City Hall, 116 West Bridge Street. So council, do you have any more discussion or questions for Ava on what she's presented to us today? If not, I'll entertain a motion to set this place, date, and time for this public hearing.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilperson Myers and a second by Councilman Mobley to set the council meeting for September 5th, 2017 at 6 p.m. here at City Hall, 116th West Bridge Street, Granbury. Council, any more discussion on that?
Can't come, we've been better.
We need a record. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That is approved for that date. Yeah. Our next item is to discuss the proposed fiscal year 2017-18 annual budget. I'm sorry. Go forward here. Discuss the proposed fiscal year 2017-18 property ad valorem value tax rate for the city of Granbury and to vote to place a proposal to adopt the rate of .399385 on the agenda for a future city council meeting as an action item. And I'm going to call upon Chris and the staff, probably even to talk on this one also.
You bet. On the 26th of last month, we received the certified tax roll, and the numbers came in somewhat lower than what we discussed at the budget workshop, and I'll turn it over to Ava to elaborate. I believe she's got a little slideshow ready for you.
Yes, I do this time. We received, as Grace mentioned last, the 26th, the certified property valuations, and also on the 28th, we received the property tax calculation for the chief appraiser. So at this time, we received the effective tax rate calculation, and that is the same tax rate that is included in our proposed budget, and that's the 399,385. And as I mentioned before, the effective tax rate allows us to generate the same revenue as we generated last year when taxing the same properties, both years. And the chief appraiser also provided us with the rollback tax rate, and that is .44339 as included in your staff report. I wanted to go back and on this slide show you what we have done the last 6 years as far as our tax rate. Each year for the last 6 years, the city either adopted the effective tax rate or the tax rate that was adopted in the previous year, whichever was higher. And the changes show the difference for each year. I also added a little column that shows you the property valuation growth for the last several years. The last couple years we have grown aggressively, 9% and 11%, while this year the increase is only 2%, and that's really based on new valuations. We received about $30 million in new valuations in the current fiscal year. I also wanted to add that it is recommended that council adopts the effective tax rate. We based our budget on the effective tax rate. It generates about $22,000 more than last year's property tax rate, and it's only thousandths of a dollar more than the property tax rate that was adopted last year. Again, for each property owner, for each $100,000 valuation, it makes a $1.80 difference annually. On the following slide, I included, so you could see what the taxable values are in 2017 and 2016. I also included the adjusted taxable value for 2017 and 2016. The adjusted taxable value is reduced by the tax ceilings, the value loss due to final court decisions, or all the exemptions. So the adjusted taxable value is used when effective tax rate is calculated. And as you can see, the effective tax rate in 2017 is 0.399385. Last year it was 0.371040. The reason last year it was lower is because we had a more tremendous growth. It was 11%. This year it was only 2%. I spoke to Greg Stewart, our chief appraisal, and he also recommends for us to adopt the effective tax rate because at this point, we do not know what will happen next year, how valuations will change. While last year they had a large increase in commercial properties, there is no way to foresee what's going to happen next year. And in order for the city to be able to generate the same property tax revenue as we have, the effective tax rate is the recommended tax rate to adopt. At this time, I'll answer any questions you might have.
There you have it, Council. Chris, do you have anything to add to that, or?
Well, I might just add that the legislature's in a special called session with a specific agenda item to address property caps on cities. And currently, we have the 8% rollback rate established, and legislative tone is to set that at 5%, and anything above that would cause an automatic election. So I'm feeling pretty confident that an effective tax rate is a good signal to anybody asking that we're not raising taxes, we're just maintaining the same thing. While at the same time, the legislature is anticipating everyone to be going up 8% by their legislation. So obviously we're in a blessed area. We have a steady growth, and that's allowing us to keep our tax rate low. Some of the cities in West Texas that are suffering shrinkage, are having to raise their tax rate to be able to raise the same amount of money every year and make it work. But as we grow, we have increased needs, police and fire responsibilities and public safety and streets. And so I would just contend that our largest part of this overall tax rate is for debt service for our general fund, and the smaller portion of it being our maintenance operation. I believe if you look in your budget, it's around 18 cents for maintenance and operations, and maybe a little more, a few mills of a cent more, but so the bulk of that is going towards debt service, and that's the way it was set up, and that's not subject to rollback rates, but the 18 cents is, so that's kind of where we're at.
Council, any questions for concerns with Ava or Chris?
I don't have a question,
Mr.
Mayor.
Parsons?
I'd like to make a comment.
Comment? Go ahead.
I'm going to propose to council that we adopt a tax 36 cents would be about a 4-cent diminution from the proposed effective rate. In our June financial statements, on a year-to-date basis, our revenues exceed expenses by over $1 million, or nearly $1 million. By the time this year end is over, we'll have probably $1.2 million, $1.1 million in excess revenues over expenses. As we move forward into the next year, we've used a budget number on sales tax of $7,500,000. That's approximately not approximately, but the projected sales tax for the current year is going to be $7,746,000. So that above budget is $309,000 or $400,000. So it's easy to see that our budgeted amount of $7.5 is definitely inadequate and way short. I think the projection should be $8 million in sales tax in the year 17-18. That means that you could reduce the amount of money, or that would produce about $600,000, which is the same amount of money as moving the tax rate by 4 cents. We've always used a number of about $150,000 per penny inside of the tax rate. So to move the tax rate 4 cents, be $600,000 back to the taxpayer, and we could adjust for that by raising the sales tax in our budget, and would be well within principles because that's only a 1 1/4, 1.04, 1.05 increase in the sales tax over the current year.
Councilman Park, you're assuming that we can actually operate with a lower tax rate then than what our effective rate is then?
Yes.
Get the things done.
And,
Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
I would just caution council that once you get it to the 36 cents, to get it back to this current rate we're at now may be impossible in the future.
I understand that, and that's what I've tried to tell congressmen, that they are fooling themselves with this issue because what they encourage is they encourage no one giving a tax decrease because you can't claw back with a 5% number.
Yeah.
So you've sort of solidified my point in saying that no one's going to be tax decreases if this new legislation passes because you can't claw back if you have an emergency.
Yes, sir.
5% in our case is what? $0.015.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we did this about 2012, I think. If you go back and look, we actually took a decrease in.
Well, she's got it on the slideshow what the rate was,
Yeah,
40 cents.
Well, you don't
Did
have
you go
12.
back? So,
No, it was up 4.
About 05 or 06.
I would also like to, I'm all for saving tax money. I understand that. Relying on sales tax for the burden of maintenance and operation as heavy as we are, I would say that 1/3 of our $7.5 million is going to property tax reduction by statute because of the election we held.
Mm-hmm.
So if we didn't have that half cent on there already helping to reduce that, our sales tax would probably be around 62 cents. Our property tax would be around 62-cent rate. So we've taken big strides in subsidizing our budget with sales tax already. And if you, hey, I'm going to do what y'all vote to do, but I just want to lay that out for you as a reminder that we are subsidizing our maintenance operations substantially already with sales tax. Relying on that, and we hope that it continues to grow.
Well, I think it's a lot of it. We have grown the last 10 years here in sales tax and property taxes, property value. And all we've done is kept spending money, where I agree with Mayor Pro Tem here. We can give back some to taxpayers. We may, have to tighten our belt a little bit here. Hey, if you own your own business, it happens every day.
I don't mind that at all.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Mobley.
Well, and I would caution the council into moving in this direction, primarily because I think in the economy, we always think whatever's happening now is going to continue. When we have a good economy, we have high sales tax, we think that's going to continue. And I would caution, knowing that the next recession is on its way, we don't know if it's going to start tomorrow or in 10 years. Ideally, it's going to start later than sooner. But to rely so heavily on the sales tax rate, thinking that's going to just only go up from here, I think that's a mistake.
Well, I would submit that in 2008, when the last the Great Recession, I believe it ended up being called. As soon as that began to hit, we were able to, the council and the management was able to react to that and reduce expenses where necessary, and ended that in pretty good shape. So, but there's no doubt that what sales tax can always fall instantly, and you have to react when that happens. But coming into the end of the year, every year it seems like we're coming in with $1 million overage. Last year we ended up putting $500,000 into the reserve account. We have 37% reserves to operating. We have about $4.2 million in operating, unrestricted operating cash. That is 4 months of operating this city without any income. The amount called for in the reserve is about, by the charter, is 25%. We're operating at 37%. I don't think the reserve account is where the citizens of the city of Granbury want their savings account. I think they want their savings account on their own balance sheet, not on ours.
Mayor.
Councilman Couch.
Well, before I could vote to decrease the tax rate, I would have to ask the city manager and Ava to dive deep into the shared allocation costs of the utility funds. Because what I've ascertained is that, you know, the electric customer and the water customer pay a very large percentage of our overhead costs. So if there's going to be some sort of reduction, I'd like to see it on that side.
And you're exactly right. That's coming up too. So that's what it kind of scares me to go anything other than effective rate because of what we're looking at with our new, our water rates and things like that. But and I think Ava has dug deep into this and looked at what the effective rate would do for us and how we'd have to be able to operate just with that effective rate in itself.
And if I may add a couple other comments.
You may.
Thank you. I wanted to add that, yes, with sales tax, we are up almost 5%, but from that, we already identified about 130,000 is a one-time adjustment.
One time.
So we are up probably about 180, 200,000 right now, but 120 is just a one-time adjustment that we received that we will not be able to count on next year. And we constantly analyze our sales tax to try to stay on top of that. As Councilman Mobley mentioned, sales tax is our biggest revenue. So if there is any decrease or any kind of slowdown in economy, the city will feel that. The second point I wanted to make that we were in June, Councilman Parson was right. We were just right under $1 million over revenue as far as revenue over expenditures, but we have collected most of our property taxes already, and we still have July, that's not included, August and September to operate on. So we will not be getting more property taxes. We're gonna be operating now on sales tax.
In addition to that, we've got $400,000 encumbered now that weren't in that report in June, and so that's for the paving project. And so it's not as fat as it appears in the June financial.
Yes, exactly. There are revenues and expenditures budgeted for the downtown street project in general fund that has not been fully utilized yet either. So, and another point is while we are a small city and we have that healthy cash balance, a lot of cities are recommending, especially if you are so reliant on sales tax, to have a 30, 35%, a 40% reserve fund balance in case of emergency, and have these fund balance restricted for future capital projects. Because we have, as you've seen during our budget workshop, had to turn down a lot of requests from departments who have the aging fleets. And I would rather recommend for us to set up a restricted fund balance for future capital assets, so we would not have to lease those vehicles and equipment that we will be needing.
There's one truck that was requested from the electric department. It was $330,000 that we just slashed from the budget because we didn't have the money. And,
Well, that's in the utility fund, that's not the general.
right.
Also, I do understand the cyclical nature of ad valorem taxes, and matter of fact, in June, that surplus, there was only $15,000 worth of ad valorem tax added to the revenue side for that period. I think part of the comments that I have is that how do we keep ending up at the end of the year? We have $1 million sitting there. It's going to be more by the time we get through it this year, because this is our highest sales tax collection period, right? Is all.
What's wrong with that?
And so now you're telling me that we turned down someone's request to get a $300,000 or $400,000 piece of equipment, but we got $1 million hanging out. It needs to be either spent or given back to the taxpayers. So I'm not following why that happens. How do we end up with $1 million sitting here today and we don't have a plan for spending it?
Well, as I said, there was a $400,000 purchase order issued for a street paving project that's in that general fund line item that wasn't reflected in your report. And you can see that as you see your July report. So there are other expenses of things that are being purchased also. But, you know, when I interviewed for this job, I was told that $300,000 wasn't enough surplus at the end of the year. That's something that we shoot for. We try to cut expenses everywhere we can. And I'm still hoping to end up with about a $500,000 surplus at the end of this year. And I applaud your perspective and appreciate it. And I feel I'm a property taxpayer too, so I understand that. So
Here's the deal, though. Even take it and look at it, your personal money. These are taxpayers' money. We all are taxpayers.
yeah.
Let's say at the end of the year, we had our boss give us a $25,000 cash bonus. Does that mean we got to go spend that money immediately? Or we got to go find something to buy?
No.
That's basically what we've been doing right here. After the end of the year, we'll put police cars on there, we'll put mowers on there, and spend it out of the last year's budget.
And that's been the request of this council to do that.
When?
And
Last year. And the year before.
Yeah, we did last year because we had the money left over.
No, what we decided is, you know, we were borrowing the money prior for
That was on
police cars and
vehicles.
such. And then we decided that we wanted to go ahead and expense those, so
Yeah.
that is a change in the fiscal policy.
But as a taxpayer too, they want that quality of life, and they're going to ask for that, and whether or not you're going to be able to give it to them based off of not having the money to spend.
I could spend $2 million in the next
Oh,
6
yeah.
months on streets in this community.
And that's on citizens' request. That's on people that want that quality of life here, not only in their parks, but the streets and anything else.
I think that's what I'm asking, is that it be spent?
Yeah,
Sure.
sure it can.
We collect it, can we spend it? So,
I'll add another $500,000 to the street budget for next year if that's okay with you.
How about the
Definitely
council want
needs
to
it.
spend on something else?
Well, you going to do it out of reserve or what?
Yes, if that's what you'd like. Whatever y'all want me to do.
I'd say the council get a $10,000 a week. Would be overtime.
What?
Joking.
Thank you. Well, council, is there any more discussion on this?
We do
I
have
think
to
we're
vote
in
on
the
the
discussion
rate
phase
that
of this
we're,
anyway, right?
we have to vote tonight
Vote on a
to
rate.
place a proposal.
Proposed rate.
I would have it after the budget. That way we'll see what we can cut out of the budget.
Well, when you vote on it, you got the right to vote for.
And if I may, one more comment. I don't think it will be an issue, but as long as we go with the effective tax rate or a lower of effective tax rate, we will not have to have the tax hearings. Those dates are listed on your agenda packet in case you decided to go with a higher rate than the effective tax rate, we would have to set those public hearing dates as well. But if you go with the effective tax rate, we will not have to have to set those two public hearings, and we will be voting. Council will be voting on the tax rate on September 5th.
Well, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to adopt the effective tax rate of .3993856.
Okay, so it has to be a motion that recommends to place the proposed adoption of the effective rate of 39,385 valuation of the property tax rate for the fiscal year 2017. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct.
So I have a motion by
Second.
Councilman Couch. I have a second by Councilman Mobley.
What was the motion, Mayor?
The motion was to place the proposal to adopt the 2017 effective rate of 0.39385 per 100 valuation as the property tax rate for the fiscal year 2017-2018, basically the effective rate.
No date set, right?
Well, we're going to set the date when we're going to talk about it.
We don't have to have a public hearing, so
No, you don't have
and
to
we
have one
don't
with
have
this.
to
It
set
doesn't
the
go
date
above
to
the
adopt
effective
it,
rate.
but
Gotcha.
it'll be adopted on September 5th.
But this time, we're just, we had a motion and a second for the proposed adoption of the effective rate. And with that said, council, any more discussion on it? With that said, it will be a record vote. Councilman Parsons, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Allen?
Aye.
Councilman Couch?
Aye.
Councilman Mobley?
Aye.
Councilman Myers?
Aye.
That is approved, and we'll set that date. Thank you, Ava.
Thank you.
Good discussion.
And a great book. Great
The
book.
book, look, really, when I get to see it,
So at this time, there is no further discussion. Council, any more discussion? If there is no further discussion, this council meeting is adjourned.